Hi there. I'm Marcus. I'm going to talk you through a little experiment I just did that worked out pretty well. Um, and but yeah, I'll do some history first. I'll do a little quick history first. Okay, so this is a Mando guitar. Um, Mando guitars originally showed up in the 60s, made by the Vox company out of England, but the guitars were mostly made in Italy. Um, and the idea is that it's a 12-string guitar, but it's tuned an octave higher. So they show up on a Beatles record, can't remember which one, but a Beatles record, and by a few jangly acts from that era. But then they really start showing up in the 70s and 80s. People like Ry Cooder and David Lindley used them a lot. Ry Cooder played slide on his, for God's sake. And then they had this kind of boom with Daniel Lanois when he made that Wrecking Ball record with Emmylou Harris, and then suddenly that sound was all over the place, and then Buddy Miller started playing guitar with Emmylou Harris, and so he started doing it, and then he was doing it on other people's records. So the issue was that there weren't very many of the Vox ones, and they were not made really well. So when you have this small a neck and the frets are that close together and the strings are that tight, the woodwork and everything has to be very precision, and the Vox ones weren't very precision. They're super cool, but other people started getting in on it and making copies very faithful to the Vox one, but higher tolerances. And this is from the company in Hamilton, Ontario called Hammertone, which was an offshoot of F-Bass. And about 20 years ago I went to work for them on the F-Bass side and realized that they had kind of started this and then mothballed it. So there were a few out there, Colin Cripps from Crash Vegas and now Blue Rodeo, and various other people had them, but they weren't in, they weren't well known, and they weren't out there particularly. And then I said, well, we have to do this some more, and I harangued people at trade shows, and another couple of hundred of these went out into the world. Dixie Chicks bought 3, I think, and Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers bought 1, and more people who I should remember, but it's 20 years ago and I'm almost 60, so anyway, we got another few hundred out there. And anyway, it's a great instrument. I really like it. I use it a lot. But in the back of my mind, there was always this thing that I wondered about, where what if the 3 bass pairs, EAD, went to one output, and the 3 treble pairs, GBE, went to another output? Would it be pointless? Fair enough. Or would it actually be something cool that that actually made some sense, that you could actually use in a musical way by processing the bass and the treble side separately? And so the Dan Lanois thing that everybody got really keen on was very ambient, and it was, no surprise. He's that kind of producer. He makes these environments that the song lives in. And so the Mando guitar was this really chimey, you know, ethereal, dreamy thing with delay on it. And certainly Buddy Miller took that and ran with it, and he's, you know, he does a great thing with the Mando guitar. And lots of other people, and it's really nice with the singer. You know, it's not in the way of the vocal, but it puts this kind of fairy dust on everything. Anyway, so my thought was, what if the bass strings did one thing, and then the treble strings did another thing, and then in stereo, potentially left and right, you could get the bass strings moving in one direction and the treble strings moving in another direction. And this is the kind of thing I think about at night. And I worked in the factory where they made Mando guitars, so it seemed like something I could pursue. And so there was a scratch and dent body and a neck with a spot on it or something, and I kind of threw something together. Oh, and here's the proof of concept pickguard, you know, with the two Telecaster pickups, you know, slanted to get under one half of the strings. It worked it was okay. It was okay. And then, you know, years go by, and I noticed that Jonathan at Next Generation Guitar, Next Generation Music, had put they wind pickups, and he put some pickups up on Instagram, and they were 2 coils side by side. So a different coil under each 3 strings. And his purpose in doing that was to make it hum canceling. 2 coils magnetically out of phase will hum cancel. You know, whatever, since the 1940s they've known that. But in my head it's like, oh, wait a minute. What if I just separated those 2 coils and sent them out to different jacks? 2 jacks. Left, right, you know, not left, right, bass, treble. So I got Jonathan to make me some pickups. This is not a commercial for Next Generation, but boy, oh boy, what a nice job Jonathan did. Okay, it's a commercial. And, you know, the pickups are super slick. They're a nice job. And, you know, he does a wiring diagram that, you know, I can't do that. That's beautiful. And anyway, installation, no problem. I needed some extra parts to do it properly, you know, the potentiometers and jacks and so on, and he had all of that. Anyway, the whole thing was nice and was not super expensive. So, did it work? Did it pay off? I think so. I think it really paid off. So I have to throw headphones on to actually make this work, but talk amongst yourselves. So let me turn off the junk first. Okay, so here's the normal, unmodified, unprocessed Mando guitar. Which is a very useful thing all on its own. So then you do the thing that I'm talking about, and you process that So here's the basses, unprocessed. And then so this is the Line 6 Echo Park, and I'm using the ping pong delay setting, and it's just on the treble strings. Bass string, you hear a tiny bit of crosstalk, just because there's enough magnetic field on the pickup to get a little bit of the other strings. Then you add in the bass output, and this is going to another Line 6 pedal. This is the MM4, the modulation modeler. It's got all the whirly swirly stuff in it. The reason I'm using these two pedals, these are not very fancy, exciting pedals, but they're both stereo in and stereo out, so I can send a signal in, I'll go mono in, and then it'll split it out into stereo. So if there's an effect that moves from left to right, you'll hear it, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to get stuff moving around in the stereo field. So here's the bass strings, and I'm using the bias tremolo setting on the Line 6. So bias tremolo is this thing that Fender did in the 1960s on the Brown amplifiers, where they call it pitch changing or pitch vibrato, but it's not really. It's tremolo, but it's oscillating highs opposite to lows, if that makes sense. Instead of oscillating the volume of the whole thing up and down, the highs are going up and down at a different rate than the lows are going, which is super cool. What this is doing is a kind of recreation of that, a cartoon version of that in the Line 6, only it's using the stereo field as well. So, you know, the people in the audience don't hear this. The stoners on headphones, it'll blow their mind. So the low treble, no, what am I talking about? The low strings are going through the bias tremolo, and they're doing a little side to side. Okay. The treble strings, the high three, are going through the other echo park on ping pong delay. So they're definitely doing some movement back and forth across the stereo field. But it's a delay, where the other one is just modulation. So the high strings are getting some repeats that are bouncing around left to right. The low strings are getting oscillation between the left and right. So, you know, the operation was a success. Like, So people have done stereo guitar before. I feel like with a normal 6-string guitar, there's kind of not enough going on to justify or to make it interesting. You know, with the Mando guitar, there's plenty of strings, there's a lot going on, and you can really benefit from that stereo spread. I might, God help me, I might actually do a full-size 12-string this setup as well, because I think that'd be pretty spectacular too. Okay, let's do something in, let me just do something in context here and see. Here are the mighty Volca. Is that actually working? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just have a really lame hip-hop thing going on the Volca beats, just for some time, just to put this in context. And I can do First We Take Manhattan. Alright, that's it. Sorry about the ham-fisted guitar playing, whatever, but the idea, bass strings go one way, treble strings go another way, each one does a whirly-swirly stereo thing. I think it's got legs, and I advise you to listen to it on headphones and not try to listen to it on the speaker on your phone, because it won't make any sense unless you're hearing it in stereo. So apologies for that, and thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.